Hello, and welcome or welcome back to another episode of Rural Living and Innovation. I am the host of this here podcast, my mama's baby. Thank you for joining me for this episode. It's a bit of a ramble. Yeah, and I dressed up because I'm going to be talking about a horrible experience. So I at least want to be walking into it feeling good because I know it won't feel good somewhere in the middle. Um, yeah, so in this episode, I want to talk about my journey and why I've specifically chosen to live here while I'm working, because I know there are other people who live in the cities. Although they do remote work, they do choose to live in the cities. Um, but the fact that I can record this episode like this without any like sound insulation, or the windows are open and I don't have any like noise interference, is just a part of it. But yeah, let me talk a bit about like my background, where I was born, where I grew up, my education, and that kind of thing, and also like what brought me to this like particular situation or moment. So I only discovered this, I think, in my teens, that I was actually born in Durban. I was not born here in Richmond, and maybe this contributes to my dilemma of wanting to know more about Richmond and the factors that influence my current situation, because from my parents I can only get so much, and then I need context of the situation. And I've been looking, I've just been searching. um there's another episode on the colonial expansion in South Africa that I've been trying to record, and this is just like my conclusions of, yeah, of black people's experience of white people before the colonial agenda. Um, and I've been struggling to like really articulate it like properly. Um, and so I'm doing this episode prior to that. Yeah. So I'm just doing this episode prior to that as context. Um, Yeah, so I was born in Durban actually, and I didn't know this until I was a teenager. I was born in Durban because there was a lot of political violence that broke out in Richmond, in this region, in the 1990s, as well as like Umsinga, Northern KZN, which is where my siblings and I went to school. So I have a very somewhat intimate experience of that whole situation, of the like violence in KZN that broke out in the 1990s, and it affected me or my lived experience in that I was not born here. I was born in Durban, I'm not sure where, and I think until I was like 3 or 4 something, we lived in Claremont in Durban. There's a township, I think it's a township in Durban, where my parents used to rent. They used to rent like a room or two. And yeah, we lived there for a while we were escaping the violence that was breaking out here. But it's not that we really migrated, it's just that we stayed there temporarily and would come back here to Richmond when like the violence was a little bit quiet. I'm still, even now, still trying to unpack the violence that broke out in Richmond and understanding it, because I don't think the story that's been painted in the media so far is the real story. Um, I don't know, like, I don't know. I think the pettiness of the time, uh, my mom's perception of the pettiness of the time was the fights might have just broken up over a fight, but I think it was more related with land and the stance on land, of the different parties at that time. So yeah, that is my background and where I was born. So I was born in Pinetown in Richmond, and then I think during that time my dad got land in Nazareth in Pinetown. It's another township close to Pinetown, within walking distance, because my dad worked in Pinetown in a factory. So wherever we were staying had to be within walking distance for work for him, so that like it being in Durban would be worthwhile. Um, so yeah, eventually my parents built a house in Nazareth, Pinetown, and we only sold that house I think around 2020, 2019, 2020. Um, but so when I was around 4, we moved back here permanently, but we still had the residence in Claremont and then later in Nazareth. Um, but most of my childhood, from like 4 or 5, I was here. So I forgot. I knew that I lived in Durban at some point, but I never thought I was born there. And so with us living here, when my mom moved back post 1990, I think it was like 98 or 96 or 7, when they started rebuilding here after the violence, because people would like tear down homes. Lots of people were left as orphans after that time. There were lots of child-headed households. There was lots of female-headed households from way back when. And to some extent, this is still the case in where I live, that a lot of households are child headed or female headed. Yeah, there are a lot of homes with both parents, but also sometimes both parents isn't biological parents, and the children don't necessarily know that. And yeah, yeah. But Home Affairs knows, but the children don't really know. So it's a different context. So that was the 1990s, and then the 2000s was when I started going to school. So grade R, I actually went to Dominus Evita School, which was a boarding school in KwaMaphumulo, close to Stanger. It's between Stanger and Kranskop. And I went there for 1 year, and I remember it was so horrible. It was so horrible. I am my mother's baby. Like I don't know. My name is Anele, and just like life has been fun until I reached like 21, 22. Life has been fun. Been able to see my role within the broader picture, and then also see my importance in other people's lives despite my youth. So it was really horrible. I remember like I could never find my socks. Like I could never find socks. This was in grade R. Because there were maybe 1,000 students, and we all did washing together. So there was a junior boarding school and then a senior like hostel. There was a junior boardroom or hostel, and my dormitories, junior dormitories, and then the senior hostel. Um, so there was like hundreds of children there, and we'd all send our socks to the washing, and they'd wash them and dry them, and then they'd be back uh, by evening or in the morning. And I could never find the same pair of socks. And even with underwear, like I could never find underwear, and it was just a horrible time. And I felt like I had to do everything by myself. And my siblings didn't necessarily stay in the same dorm as me. I think the only one that stayed in the same dorm as me was Tandile. I think we both stayed in number 6. I stayed in number 6. I don't know if I stayed with any of my siblings in the same room. And so they couldn't really help me with stuff. And I'm very codependent. Even now, I'm very codependent. I know, like, I'm one of 10 children, and I'm very codependent. Like, save me, bitch. I'm very codependent, and I'm working myself out of it, but it was just a horrible time. And we'd come back early from school because we were grade R, and I'd just be sitting out there just like waiting to go and eat. And even the eating, it was just such long queues to eat. I hated it. So I don't know if, and I was a vocal child. I was a very vocal child, Shem. I don't know if my vocalness about how horrible the situation was contributed, but I mean, I was very vocal about, and just the troubles that they also experienced with all of the children, and also the violence that they were protecting us from of the at that time had like ended officially, and so it was time to let the children go and for it to be a senior only boarding school. So now only grade 7 to 12 boarding school. So I only went there for grade R, and then I came back to live here in Richmond and did grade 1 to 6. So I did grade 1 to 6 in St. Bernard Miseki, and I remember I hated it. I would wake up at 5 in the morning and I would have to bath, and we didn't have a shower or a geyser, so I'd have to boil a kettle and bath. And Richmond, the Midlands is so cold in winter, and and you'd bath in the sheen, and then by 6 you must be stopping because the bus came at 6, and then it would drop us off at school by like 7 or so, and school didn't start until like 7:30, and then you'd start school, and then you take a bus year 1 until grade 3, and then after grade 3 you take a bus year 5. So you'd be in town just like being a bum until like the 5 o'clock bus for you to come home at 6. And the only reason I feel like I endure that whole thing, or at least the academic aspects of it, I could not wake up in the morning. The bus would leave me, especially the first few years, the bus would leave me behind. So we have a bus stop here, but if I missed the bus here, I could run down the hill and catch the bus on the other side on its way out of the village. And I always used to catch it on its way out of the village because I never woke up on time. And I've only been able to cure myself of my bad morning habits like in the past 2 years. So now I can wake up at like 5 without anybody or even an alarm. But I hated that experience, and I enjoyed the academic part of it because I knew at least I could go back to boarding school. Because I don't know, in my mind, my siblings were fine and they were having more fun there at boarding school, but I had hated boarding school myself. But in my mind, I was going to be fine once I got to boarding school, and I just had to do well enough in school to get to boarding school. So I don't remember. My cousin is the only friend that I really remember from school. I just knew people in my class, but I didn't really have like friends like that in primary school. The people I played with, but I didn't have friends like that because I was not planning. My long term plan was not there. I had friends here in my village, but I didn't have friends at school. But also part of the thing that made me not have friends at school was the fact that most of the children at my school. So I went to school in town. We take a bus, 45 minutes drive, to town, and most of the kids in my school were either from town or were from the neighboring township. And because I lived in a village, somehow we were inferior to the kids that lived in the township, which is Ndaleni, and the kids that lived in town, that town. I remember there was a time they were talking about Kellogg's and how like bahle my Kellogg's and I was just like, oh, basha ama-cornflakes. Yeah, nasidla ama-cornflakes because like, yeah, and there was just like so many things that they would brag about. They'd brag about the fact that they took a taxi to school and we took a bus, that their transport dropped them off at the gate and our transport dropped us off at the garage, and then we'd have to walk to school. So like stuff like that, they used to like use stuff like that to make us feel inferior. And I didn't really care because I knew I was happy at home. I knew also I didn't have to, I was here for academic intentions. I remember my first day in primary school, grade 1, somebody stole my lunchbox and I hit them. I hit them so hard that like they had lines left on their face. And I don't understand why did it, because I wasn't a violent child. But I remember throughout primary school, I used to beat kids. I used to beat the shit out of even guys. I remember I once got in a fight with a guy from my own village because he was now living in town with his aunt, and he was using my nicknames from my village to taunt me at school and side with like the town kids. Did I not beat him? I beat him, and I put him in a cupboard. Like I shoved his head in a cupboard, and then I remember that was the last fight that I had. And I think they were also scared of me because they knew I was not scared of them. I could beat the living shit out of them. But weirdly enough, I never got into any fights in my village, but in school. And when I tell my mom now, she's just like, "What? What are you talking about?" But there are some things that I understood that my mom doesn't need to know about. I can deal with it. It's here quickly and sufficiently. My tummy looks so bad. I can deal with it myself quickly and sufficiently. So at grade six, I finished grade six, and then I went to grade seven in Domino Savita School, the same place where I did my grade R. And even there, I knew that I was there for academics. Not that I didn't try and make friends. I obviously did have friends, like people I like walk to the shop with, spend afternoons with, visit their rooms, after school. So I had friends like that, but also for me, I could easily say, okay, guys, I'm done with chatting now. I'm going to study. And I remember one of my friends, Usne, always used to be like, "Hey, but when you will leave a conversation and go and study, like, are you not enjoying the conversation?" It's like, I'm enjoying the conversation, but also if I don't leave this conversation now, I'm never gonna leave because I've been thinking about leaving for the past 15 minutes, and the goodness of this conversation is not stopping. So I have to go. And I could, for me, I could exit a conversation easily, or I could exit enjoyment time easily, and then like focus on schoolwork. Uh, and yeah, and because I was able to do that, I did well in school. I think I got a few A's. I think four. Yeah, I think four. I didn't get an A for science because I was really terrible at chemistry. Tell me why there's carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and then there's CO3. Like, it's all the same elements, and just chemistry never made sense to me. The physics parts of chemistry made sense to me, like balancing equations and stuff like that. But the science of the chemicals and the bondings, and it just never made sense to me. So I didn't do well in physics, and then I didn't do well in accounting. I don't know why I didn't do well in accounting, to be quite honest with you. Maybe I might have been hyper focused on economics, but I didn't do well in accounting, and I was a bit sad about it. No, not I didn't do well. I got a B. I got a B in science and accounting, but like that was not my aim. And so in matric, I had known by like grade 10 already. So as part of life orientation at Domino Civite, we did like a career thing. There was a career thing as part of LO from grade 10 where you kind of had to decide what you want to do. I remember there was a project where I don't know, we had to decide something, and I was like, I want to go to VUT because my friend's mother, Utlulo, my friend's mother worked at VUT, and I'd seen like some stuff that she'd been doing with engineering, and I was interested in engineering at that time. And so I was interested in going to VUT. But the reason that I was interested in engineering and electronic engineering specifically was because Miss Angela Stott, who is a fucking genius, like by all accounts. Like that lady taught us high school science, and then she left and went to teach like science at UCT. Science, or like quantum physics or something at UCT. Literally, she so she had lended me that book. Like, I don't know, we weren't friends, but like she was kind to me while I was in high school, because she and my brother had been classmates or had taught at the school at the same time or something like that. But she was kind to me at the time, and she lended me this book, and it was an autobiography about Steve Wozniak. And if you know anything true about Apple history, is that the guy who actually made the Apple is Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs is the guy who marketed Apple, the product. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so me. Because when I was in primary, me and my sister would fix our DVDs, like attach things with elastic bands, and we're just like engineering life and fixing things and areas on the roof, fixing the aerial, making it work. And I was like, okay, this sounds like something that is similar to something that I do. I didn't think people had to study agriculture, which was something that I grew up around. Like, all the holidays, we had to work in the fields. Most of the afternoons, when I came back while I was in primary, I'd come back to the spot where my mom had like a poetry project, and I'd try and do their books for them. Um, so, like, agriculture was something I grew up with, but I didn't think you could or would or needed to study for it. Uh, or that it made a lot of money, actually, or that people would think you're a genius for doing it. I did like to think to be thought of as somebody who was like pretty smart and like intelligent. I liked that idea, and I didn't think people would think that about me from doing agriculture. Uh, Not that people do agriculture are not smart. It's just I didn't think people would think that about me at the time. Um, so yeah, so from grade 10 through grade 12, it was just about figuring out which line of engineering I wanted to do. Would it be computer engineering? Would it be electrical engineering? Like, what would it be? And then also, where would I be studying? So, yeah, there weren't any big events in my life throughout high school and primary school. I didn't necessarily date. I think I did date, but for all intents and purposes, I didn't date. If you think you dated me before I was 20, boy, you are lying yourself. That was not a relationship. So, yeah, so I didn't have, like, except that, like, I almost got expelled in grade 10. I genuinely don't know what it was for. I genuinely don't know what it was for. Um, like, I didn't start grade 10 until like February, March vibes, because the previous year we'd been told not to come back. But our school had a demerit system. I still had like enough points that like it didn't warrant an expulsion, and I had not been called to an SMG or an SMT meeting, and so it was just like very tumultuous time. But that taught me that friends are short term. Like, when that whole situation happened, we all realized it was okay, because we there were 7 friends of us, and essentially we were expelled for being friends. And yeah, I don't know. And we were just like, after that, all of us as friends, we stopped being friends. I was just like, if I'm gonna be get into trouble for being friends with you, I'm not gonna do that, because I'm here for education, not for friendship, to be quite honest. So from grade 7 to 9, I had a different set of friends. And then from grade 10 to 12, I had a different set of friends. And then only of that set of friends from grade 7 to 9, actually, I had 7 friends. And then from grade 10 to 12, I had a different set of friends, and there was only four or five of us. And then of those 4 or 5, I'm still friends, or like constantly talk to one. Unoxolo. Noxolo and I send each other money. Like, she For all intents and purposes, she's my best friend. Nobody will send me money without me asking for her. For his we check in on our parents and stuff. We've both lost our dads, so we like still connect on a lot of levels. But from high school, yeah, I still have one friend. I just have one friend. My best friend from high school was Klula. And our friendship just broke apart and just like it broke apart in just the nastiest ways. I was going through things, but we got there and it just fell away. But we called each other Zach because we both had a crush on Zach. That man was gorgeous. But we both had a crush on Zach, and so we called each other Zach. And then a boyfriend, also called. I don't know how that happened, but hi, let's move on from that. So when I got to matric, I really wanted to go to UP, the University of Pretoria, because my sister lived in Centurion and I felt like that was close. My other sister stays in Kempton Park somewhere. So that is like also like really close. Two of my sisters actually stay in Kempton Park or Randburg. I don't know, Randburg area. Um so I thought like it would be more like at home vibes for me. And I'd have a better support system. But I also applied at Stellenbosch and I applied at UCT. But like as I was in like while I was in matric, like the results were just not coming back. And also for UCT and UP, I'd gotten acceptance letters from both, conditional acceptance letters, but I hadn't gotten raise in both of them. I hadn't gotten bursaries from both of them, and Stellenbosch was just coming. And I think Stellenbosch trapped a lot of us with this. Like in 2015, they trapped a lot of black babies with that recruitment bursary. And they really recruited a lot of black people by giving us the. So if you got above, I don't know what their rating was, if you got above a certain mark, you would get res, automatic placement in res, and then you would get a bursary, a tuition bursary, not accommodation, just tuition. So Stellenbosch came in, accommodation letter, tuition letter. They sent me a postcard. They were saying, "Hi, Annele, we hope you try all the best for your trials or finals or something." And I started reconsidering this whole UP situation. And I was like, yo. And then I told my one friend, ooh, Jaeun, we had like four Koreans in our class. We were like close. And I was like, yo, like I want to go to UP. She also wanted to go to UP. Oh, I think she wanted to go to to do medicine. And she was struggling because they wouldn't, I don't know, they wouldn't give them the credit in South Africa to, I don't know, something about accreditation for the subjects that they done in school and in university. I don't know. Because they've done high school in South Africa, but they were not South African. I'm not sure. So Jane was like, just pray about it, like ask for a sign, and yeah, God will answer. And I was like, right. When my mom told me to ask for a specific sign, like if you are praying about something, don't just like pray for an answer, and because sometimes God will answer you but not answer you in a language that you are ready to understand. So you also have to let him know which language you understand right now with relation to this specific thing. So for example, when I was being bullied in that grade 8, she was like, just pray if this bullying is meant to teach you something about yourself or your character, it will continue, and then ask God to teach you the lesson that you need to learn. But if it's from the devil, like it will just stop immediately. And I did. Like some of my like classmates in high school will not remember that they bullied me, but they did. I might have bullied some people and I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But so I prayed about it and it stopped. So when I was in matric, I did the same thing. I was like, okay, God, So I prayed for three like specific colors. I was like, if I am supposed to go to university, like somebody from my family will come wearing this color for prize giving. If I'm supposed to go to this university, somebody wearing this color will come. Somebody will wear this for my prize giving Lekuzan. And if I must go to Stellenbosch, somebody will be wearing red at the prize giving. And I was like, it won't be a confusing red. The colors won't be confusing. If it's all three colors, I'll take it as a sign that I can go to anyone and I'll be fine. But if it's one that I must go to, if I'm supposed to go to Stellenbosch or I'm supposed to go to UP, I'll just, show me the sign and I will like go through with it. So I remember we were sitting in the first three rows in the auditorium and I saw my sister on the side. It's a 10,000 seater auditorium, and we were sitting there and I looked to the side and I saw my sister walking there with the red dress and a denim checkers, and I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed. And I remember trying to convince myself that my sister's navy dress was actually purple because that's how bad I wanted to go to UP. And when I asked, I was like, what the fuck possessed you to wear this dress? And she was like, I actually bought it yesterday. And I was like, even more annoyed. So we closed school, we got our results. I think it was the 30th of December, 2013. And I left for Stellenbosch on the 10th of January. And I did not know that Stellenbosch was Afrikaans. I did not know that the street signs would be in Afrikaans. Like when I got there at night, and it was just the shock of my life that this is an Afrikaans neighborhood. And my brain did not even comprehend that until the next morning at breakfast when there were like five of us, like black girls at breakfast. We were staying, I think it was Minerva for the we're doing a short course on programming because I didn't do programming in school and I didn't do drawings, but I didn't want to do an extra class on drawings either. It would have helped, but I did just one on programming and I actually did really well in programming in my first year. Um, but that those first, I think it was the first 2 weeks before orientation actually began, like not even all of campus was there, but I could already tell that I was in a minority. I think the first 3 weeks of being in Stellenbosch, I cried myself to sleep. Like I forgot all about prayer, lesson, and I was just like, is this what I have to do? Like I think also what my mind could not comprehend was the fact that like I was still in South Africa. I had not left South Africa. I think if I was not in South Africa, it would have been a lot easier to deal with the fact that I was in a minority. I'd flown here, but 2 hours, and my sister lived. Like, it just made no sense to me. And then also, of the black girls that were there, they were not like me, like and not like me in like a good or bad way. They were just different. They were twins. The twins went to Durban Girls High School. You see what I mean? Like Model C girls. Their parents are professionals in one way or shape or form, and I'm just here, and my parents like could very well be my grandparents. I was born when my brother was graduating. uh, I might be going home to an RDP house because no, 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 not at that time because we just destroyed like the old house and built an RDP and we're building the house that we now live in. And I just felt like I couldn't relate on any level, even on race, even on gender. We were just not the same. And the first year was really terrible for me. Um, the first year was really terrible for me because also coming from gotten four distinctions and like five distinctions actually because I did maths paper three, five distinctions and three B's, and only to come back and get like 19 in my first math test. I was so scandalized. I got 19 in my first math test, And then after that, like I think it was in May, our bursary officer came to visit and they wanted to know our results and they were so ashamed and they threatened to cancel my bursary. And like I remember crying, and each time they came to ask about my results, I cried. Like I'd cry and just like be so humiliated, and they wouldn't offer any like support, like counseling or anything like that, or to boost our stipend, nothing. It would just be like, do better. And I understand that they were already doing a lot, but it was like it's just a different that thing. So I was on the Vodacom bursary. So when I was in matric again, I knew that I wouldn't be able to go to university if I didn't have a bursary, and so I applied for a couple of bursaries. I applied for Ellen Gray, but I don't think for me sent that form for me. I applied for the Vodacom bursary, and then I applied for Denal Dynamics. I didn't go to the Dynamics interview because my brother guilt tripped me about the fact that they make weapons. So I just like dumped that, and then I went to the Vodacom one, and then I got the Vodacom one. Yeah, I liked Vodacom. I liked what they were about. Actually, weirdly enough, I met the founder. Not I met. Yeah, I did. I met the founder of Alan Not Craig is the founder of Vodacom. His son is also Alan Not Craig. I met his son. Like he did a lecture. He did a presented a lecture in one of our um modules, and then also I found out he was the founder of Mixit. Like what? Like before social media was social media, we had Mixit, and Mixit actually was a South African thing, if you didn't know. So I met that guy, and like I was really grateful for the fact that I had the Vodacom bursary, but also at the same time I was really struggling to keep the, like every time I went and talked to them, I felt like my bursary was at stake. And then I was first year 2014, 2015. Phase must fall happen. I felt like the in first until the big march that we all did, I did not participate in Sophie's must fall things because I was already struggling. I had hustled myself into a position where I had finances coming from a poor background, and I felt like me participating because I didn't understand what it was about. Like the my perspective of funding is like people can knock on doors, you can ask corporate, you can go to spa, ask them for money. And I didn't understand why people like what we're talking about, and I didn't really want to participate in that because I didn't get it. I genuinely didn't get it. That's what how. And then when I finally did understand it, I cracked. I cracked because I was supposed to graduate in 2018 and then I didn't. I had two modules left. But in that year, the 2019, no, 2018 was no longer going to be funded. I was supposed to graduate 2017, 14, 15, 16. Supposed to graduate 2018, didn't graduate 2017. So 2018, I had to look for funding that is not from my bursary because Vodacom was not going to sponsor anymore because they only sponsored me for 4 years. So they cut their funding, no communication, nothing from them. So I hustled for funding 2018. But like I had no funding throughout 2018, and then all my funding only got approved like around October. By October, I've already failed my two modules that I'm supposed to be doing because while I'm doing like campaigning for funding, I'm also supposed to be like paying for rent. I'd moved out of res because res was really racist. So I'd moved out of res. I'd moved into an apartment that was closer to engineering because I didn't have a computer. But then also at the same time, rent had to be paid on a monthly basis, and I was no longer on a bursary, which paid money to me, and I could pay the rent. So I then had to go to the bursaries and loans office and say, "Hey, I'm approved for this funding. Can I get the 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 money to pay my landlord?" And they would write me a literal check to go and give to my landlord. But then they would give me like 3.5 and my rent was 4.5. And I had like the letters to say I had enough funding to be able to get the 4.5 that I needed, but they would not give me the 4.5 that I needed. And that was the biggest pain of my existence throughout 2018. The fact that they I had up I'd gotten the letters to say I'm approved for this funding, but the money was not yet in my student account, and then the bursaries and loans officer would not give me the money, the amount that I needed. They were set by their own limits. One, two, and then they'd give me a check and then I'd take it. I didn't have a problem with that. And then so I'd failed and stuff. So October 2018 comes through and then all of the funding comes through. And now I have like 210,000 in my account. But I'm behind on rent. I haven't been eating. Like everything was just so bad. They wouldn't give me enough money for food. They wouldn't give me money for rent. Like there was so much going on, and then I still had to attend lectures, and my lecturers wouldn't understand that I'm not attending lectures because I'm trying to figure out my academics, my finances. So I'm not in classes because in the mornings I go to the bursaries and loans office, because the bursaries and loans office by afternoon you're not gonna get help. You're not gonna get help in the afternoon. So it was just wild. So October came, I finally got the money, I paid off everything, but I'd already failed everything. But I still had enough money in my student account, and I was not like I was going to be excluded, but I could appeal because it was the first time I was excluded, right? So I appealed and they approved my appeal. So I go back knowing that I have like 120,000 in my account because the 90 was covered by the funds that came in from last year, and I'd had a bit of money that was carried over from first year from the recruitment bursary because I hadn't used everything. So I wasn't really like broke on my student account. So when the money came in for 2018, it was a lot, and there was left over for 2020 for 2019. So I start 2019 and I use that in my appeal. I'm like, I already have money in my student account. Funding is not going to be a problem anymore. So yeah, like let's go. And they let me come back. When I get back, the bursaries and loans office tells me that's not my money. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not my money? It's in my student account. They're like, no, it's not your money. It belongs to whoever gave you the money. And I'm like, but who gave me the money? There's no one institution or funder that gave me 120,000 rands. So who does it belong to? If they say it belongs to NAS, but they say it belongs to NASFAS. I was only funded with NASFAS in 2018, and I was funded for 80 something thousand rands. So they can't take the whole 120 now. And like I was trying to figure that out, and they wouldn't. Again, I was experiencing the same things that I was experiencing in 2018. And the problem was in 2019, I thought I'd have a good year, and I tried to like get an agreement from a lecturer to say, okay, if I pass this year, I can like do a master's the following year. If I can do a certain amount of research while I'm finishing my final year. Not that I'd be registered as a master's student, but I could start doing the research while I was doing my final year. So now that they're telling me it's not my money anymore, I'm just like, like, what does it mean? And then around March, they withdrew the money. I'm going to attach a screenshot. They withdrew the money. And I get so emotional when I think about this because it wasn't theirs. And then this year, I got a letter from NASFAS saying I owe them money. And I don't understand how, because they took money from me and I had to drop out because they took money from me. You see what I meant by I needed to look cute because it would get ugly. That's what I meant. So they took the money from my account. Already in 2018, June, I'd had a breakdown because I was struggling with finances and balancing the fact that I want to graduate immediately because I only had 3 modules left, right? 2018, I was doing 3 modules. I wanted to graduate immediately, but I was now struggling with finances, and these finances were being held from me for reasons that I could not understand. And throughout 2018 and 2019, throughout my like university like studies, I was not getting an allowance from home because one, people could not afford to send me an allowance. Two, I had a bursary, but now in 2018, I no longer had a bursary. My funds were being withheld, and my family was just not understanding the fact that my funds are being withheld. And I don't know if I didn't communicate the severity of the situation while I was in the situation, or if I also downplay, like, or if they just failed to understand the severity of the situation as much as I tried to explain it. So I break down middle of 2018, and my family sends me to an institution in the Western Cape, and I'm in there with actually mentally unstable people, and I'm like, that's when it clicks in my mind. It's, oh, okay, like this is what my family actually thinks is happening. As much as I might be mentally breaking down, instead of figuring out the cause of the mental breakdown and stuff, the solution is to send me to an institution and then accuse me of drug use. Drug use when I had explicitly told my sister that I smoke weed. I don't want her to be dramatic if she finds out. So I'm telling her so that she doesn't find out, only for that to be used against me when and during the institutionalization process, one, and then two, for me to continue to struggle with the financial aspect of things by myself. So I don't know, other people might think, okay, my siblings are educated and whatever and should or could help me. I have freed myself from that expectation because they can only do so much. They can do they can only react from what they know and have. And if they don't have the knowledge or the experience to comprehend and deal with the situation that I'm dealing with, there's nothing that I can do about that. And there's nothing that I can make them do. And it doesn't help me to be resentful. But also at the same time, at that time, specifically in 2018, I did not get the help that I needed, which was to figure out the financial situation so that I could attend my academic classes and get out of the institution. So I came out of the institution, went back into the institution went back to Stellenbosch to explain to my lecturers that I'd been institutionalized because I had a mental breakdown. Do you think that they think I am fit? Of course not. And I'm here doing this by myself so they can see that I don't have a support system and there's no reason for them to like take me on my word, essentially. So I get through 2018, I fail again because of the mental stress of finances, and then the mental impact of being institutionalized, and that whole situation not being explained to me as, oh, this is what is happening, and me figuring out in this institution, oh, people think I'm crazy or I'm losing it. And then just checking out because I realized if I continue explaining anything, I'll never leave that institution. So that was the first instance. So I went back after that. After the mental health whole thing, I still went back because I thought I had money in my account, and yeah, I'd be able to figure myself out after that. But only for them to withdraw the money from my account the notification on the statement said it was paid out, and usually that notification indicates that money is paid out to me, but that money was not paid out to me, and I don't know who it was paid out to. But I now no longer have finances for my academics, and they can't tell me who they paid it out to. And the lecturer that I'd spoken to about doing a master's tried to help me figure it out, and he was like, you can graduate at this point with a BTech and stuff. And I was like, how long would it take me to then qualify for a master's? And he said you'd have to work for another 2 years. And in my mind, I was like, I have 3 modules left. This is another 2 years of me giving money to the same institution for what? And I don't know if it's true or not, but I'd heard that when a student graduates from university, the university gets a payout from government or higher education or something to, I don't know for what. So I was like, I am now giving them the credit, the benefit of getting that that bulk money for having a graduate, but also at the same time I'm not getting the degree that I came in for, or the recognition for the work that I've put in. One, two, this is going to be hella expensive again for me, not for them. And then three, like, where's my money? Like, where's my money? My problem is not doing the academic course, my problem is the money. And as much as I was not doing well throughout university, most of the time I would pass 9 or 10 of the courses that year that I'd be doing. I'd take 11 or 10 modules a year, 5 modules a semester, and I would pass most, if not all of them. The reason I had 3 left at the end of 2017 was because I'd been passing majority of my modules throughout my studies. So I didn't understand now why it was taking me 2 years to finish 3 modules, and why I'm being offered a degree that is less than what I've actually been working for the past 6.5 years. So I just left with nothing. I left, I was like, if there's any value in this degree at all, I'll be able to use what I have to do something with it. And I'd already started doing the hair care thing. And I thought I'd be able to live in Pinetown, Nazareth, our home that I mentioned earlier, and like sell in town and then figure it out. Like, I was just going to figure it out because I was not willing anymore to go through the trauma of just being in Stellenbosch and just going through the things that I was going through, just the being alone part of it. And I don't mean not having friends, because I had friends, but like, your friends cannot help you figure out your finances as much as they can advise you. It's not really their place, and it's not really right for you to burden them with all of that, load of what you're going through. So I went to Nazareth first. Oh, like, I first went to my brother. I thought we could have a conversation about that, about like, the stuff that I'd been going through. It did not go well, so I left, like, I think the following day or 2 days later, and I went to our house in Nazareth in Pinetown. And then I stayed there for a few weeks. I tried to go to a few salons in Pinetown, but I quickly realized it was not going to really work. Um, no, 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 not it was going to work. They sold the house the same year that I came back. They decided they were going to sell their house. So I had to, like, come up with another plan. So I came back home, and I didn't have the money to do the haircare thing. I'd gotten a loan initially from my friend Timothy Sabat. OG, a big one. Like, Sabat gave me a loan of like 5K, and I used that to buy oils, to buy ingredients, to buy blender, to buy stuff in 2019. But then I had to move, which means, like, most of the stuff that I bought, I left there. Like, I left there. And then, yeah, I just had to start over. Like, my clothes, my books, I a lot of the stuff that I let go of, I have not thought about or processed because I just can't. And it's just a lot to process for me. It might not seem like a lot, but it's a lot. but I gave up a lot of things. And then, so I then had to give up my Pinetown plan and come back here to Richmond. And like I would sleep and wake up at like 12 or 2 during the day and then stay until like early mornings. And then I started working, and then COVID hits, and then I started working on the products again. It was just so hard, bro. But for me, the instability, the thing of somebody can say something is not yours, even though for all intents and purposes it is yours, made me not trust institutions. And for whoever knows me or is my friend who has been asking me, why didn't I go back? Why don't I just finish? They stole money from me and then they never gave me answers, and then they bullied me. They really bullied me. Everybody bullied me except my then supervisor lecturer guy. But like most of my lectures, the lectures of the modules that I was doing or repeating, when I went and explained my situation to them, they bullied me. The one guy said, this girl that has cancer is like still writing the I can't remember what he said, but he said something about a girl that has cancer and who still has to write an exam and and I was just like, cancer is out of this institution. You messing with my finances is a part of this institution, and you can help me solve this and understand this. But he just wasn't with it. So I left. And every time I think I go about going back to Stellenbosch, I just have such bad dreams, and I've never been able to go back. So that's my story with university. So I came back here, I participated a bit in the agriculture stuff, but like also family dynamics and overall views about things don't really work out. So I'm not as involved in the agricultural stuff. I just celebrate it, but I'm not really involved. I'm just involved in my space here, and this is what I'm doing. And for me, this is the one thing that nobody can say, oh, okay, I can take this away from you. Because even the land on which this office sits cannot be sold. I can sell the office, but I can't sell the land on which it sits. The land on which it sits belongs to everybody. And that made me want to build everything and invest everything that I have in physical things that I can call my own and touch and stuff, because institutions, you just can't trust them. Even having money in the bank for me is not really a security, because of that whole experience where, because like a student account in Stellenbosch functions like a bank account. You can buy food with it, you can do so much with it. So even money in the bank, when people say invest, I haven't, because I don't really trust institutions like that. Like, and we've seen with hacks, with stuff, like you can never trust the system unless you build the system, which is why I believe in rural living and innovation, that we should build our own systems here in Makaya and make it work here. Because if you don't understand the system will fuck you over. So now I am here, and my ultimate plan, I still love engineering. I did electronic engineering and I specialized in robotics. So I still love that stuff. I still want to do it. It still factors into how I think about things and how I problem solve. I'm just not practicing because of the trauma. But I'm trying to heal from the trauma by like doing more short courses, like not associating the knowledge that I gained from the institution with the trauma from the institution, um, and then making it my own. Like I, even when I was still in Stellenbosch, the reason that the last three modules that I struggled with, except computer systems, um, the other one was systems and signals, and then the other one was electromagnetics. The other one was electromagnetics. I struggled with electromagnetics and systems and signals because they were so theoretical. Like I could not relate them to anything real that in my life or anything. It just was it was like a fairy tale, but like that has a structure and a logic, and that logic is a science, but it's also a fairy tale. That's how I saw systems and signals in electromagnetics. It's like it's a fairy tale, but also it's a science, but it's a fairy tale because it's all yo, I don't get it. Anyway, so I struggle with those two modules because of that. Uh ultimately I'm still healing from the Stellenbosch trauma. I'm still healing from my trauma and Stellish, but also the trauma from Stellies has helped me realize the potential that is there in the village, because I am now just like ama-systems jamakhulu idolobha cut me out, cities cut me out, just cut me out, moving to another country permanent, cut me out. Ningangibali nje, ningangibali. Yes, we can travel, we can do visits, we can do whatever, like short term, but moving, trusting those systems, cut me out. I can engage with them, but I can't trust them at this present moment. Um, and I'm trying to see how I can help build systems that I can trust. And yeah, I guess that is a nice like sort of no, maybe a hint at a project that I'm doing. So there's a project that I'm doing for villages. It's a partnership between me and my friend, that a colleague and friend. Yeah, for villages and stuff. So one of my projects here in the village is to digitize and then to do data collection and then to do asset mapping or resource mapping. So if you would like to participate in this project, there's a form that you can fill in that like helps me figure out the readiness of your village. So what we want to do is to all the laws that govern like villages, imithetho yasemakhaya, like about planting, about seasons, how do we manage livestock as a community. There are relationships between farmers and livestock, vegetable and crop farmers and livestock owners. That there are laws around that. There are laws around burning fields or burning of random grass. There are laws around I don't know, there are a lot of laws that are not there in the city, so we want to sort of write down all of those laws. Imithetho, induna, how many is it chiefsmen there are, how big is the council, what's the size of the council, what does the council do, are there any projects that are run by the council, are there any projects in the community that are not necessarily run by the council but are just in the community that we can make visible on in the digital sphere. And then also which of these projects and initiatives have elements or products that can be turned into that can be sold on the internet or as a service or as a product on the same platform. So it's a bit ambitious, but we're trying to do like 15 communities. So digitizing 15 communities, I think they'll be mostly in KZN because those are the ones that I know, and I'll be reaching out to people. So if you know any communities that are run under the traditional Indigenous and Traditional Authorities Act of South Africa, I'm not sure which one. If you like those kinds of communities that are remote, has a population of at least 1,000, I'll share the link in the description of this video. And then you can fill it in, and then we'll do a screening, and then we'll contact the person like the final that we select, and then we will do another form to get more information, and then we'll be in contact, and then we'll start the project once we have all the information. But the screening part of the project is like 3 phases. So there's the first form filling, and then there is the initiatives and stuff that you submit, and then we screen that and we select the top 30, and then we follow up on those. We don't yet have a follow-up survey, but based on that we'll create a follow-up survey based on the information that we collect or we have from the first survey. We'll create a follow-up survey, and then after that we'll create a digital platform. So if you're keen to participate, you are keen to create for free, please, because this is like a volunteer kind of a situation, because that's not mine. um it's a volunteer situation. So if you have like web design skills that you would like to volunteer for this project, if you have like data analysis or data whatever skills that you would like to volunteer for this project, please hit me up somewhere in the comments, and then like I'll message and like we'll chat and get things going. But I really believe that we can change like the village context by taking ownership of our spaces, because municipality can't really like do much here because the rules are different, and then the sometimes the council is led by people who are a bit older, who cannot necessarily do the innovative stuff that is needed. So in your verse, young traumatized are trumps. But I am here trying to build like my own community, because quite frankly, um yeah, that's all there is to do, because any other system that you participate in that is not yours will eventually fuck you over. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you're a village baby or a rural baby like me, please fill in the form. Even if you don't get contacted for this iteration of the project, we might do another iteration of the project where we do another 15 or another 5, and we could use the same information that we have to screen the next set of like projects that we want to do. But yeah, this episode is very long, very rambly, but I hope you understand me and why I do what I do and how I do what I do. But I really hope it gives you a bit of context into who I am, how I got here, and sort of, yeah, get to know me a bit more, because sometimes it can be a bit like, oh, you're just doing things around and you're talking about things, but like, who are you? So that's what I am, and yeah, Jay, I could ramble a bit more, but that's it. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you relate, if you've also had money stolen from your student account like I have, let me know in the comments, because like, what the hell, actually, like, what is that? So yeah, toodles. See you in the next episode.